Hey, peace. Helito. Can you put one in the chat if you can hear me? Because I'm trying to test out some stuff. Just let me know if you can hear me, y'all. Hey, Chief Change Maker. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I got a new setup. Like, I got some new equipment and stuff, so I'm just testing it out, y'all. Peace, SIM card. Peace, 8-Win. Yeah, we're going to get into the Cheraw or the Sara tribe soon, because a lot of y'all descend from the Saponi and these different tribes, so I'm just letting everybody get a chance to get in. Peace, Emperor. We'll see y'all. Peace on me. I hope everybody been enjoying their quote-unquote holiday, enjoying their weekend, you know. Much love, Chief. Oh, Tuscarora in the house. You feel it? Yeah, this is it's an interesting book. So I'm gonna read from the book for you guys and kind of break it down, because nobody really talks about this. I haven't really seen this one out. Hey, peace, Marquand. Peace, David. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know I ain't been live in a long time. I hope y'all can hear me over this loud music. All right, I see 11:11. We're about to start in a minute. All right, yep. Sharon Akenazty in the building. Ringapa Lashonda. All right, y'all. I hope you can hear me. Peace, 80s babe. Yeah, so we're gonna get into the Cheraw and the Sara. It's basically the same tribe. So Cheraw is kind of like the anglicized version of Sara, or the Sarua. I think I'm spelling it right. I'm saying it right. LCO Trey. Yeah, so we're gonna get into this. It's an interesting document. And I was like really kind of blown away by the descriptions of the towns and like the different things in society. You know, they act like we were all primitive, but how can we be primitive when we had organized towns, like multiple towns? And they rarely talk about how the towns were organized. And, you know, this guy, he's like traveling and he can barely, you know, survive half the time without the Indians. He even says, like, at the end, he saves because one of the Indians like knew how to deal with, I think he got bit by a snake or pricked his finger on a tree or something, a bush, and it was poisonous. So the Indian was the only one that knew how to heal him, basically. So, yeah, we're going to get into it. Hey, Battle Axe. So let me pull it up for y'all. I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'm about to share it. Give me a second. So first, we're going to get into who this John Lederer is. This John Lederer person. Okay, I hope y'all can see this. All right. So John Lederer, he's supposed to be this German physician, which is kind of odd, being that this is like 1669, right? Let me see if I can make this bigger. No, I won't make it bigger. Can y'all see it? Okay. Now I lost the page. All right, here it is. So he went on an expedition to the Blue Ridge Mountains, okay, which some people know as Appalachia. And at that time, it was called the Apalatean Mountains. Now, this, for me, sounds very similar to the Atlantean, right? Sounds very similar to Atlantean. But you can see the map here. This is the actual map that he drew back in 1669 or 1670, whenever he actually drew it. You can see Katerias on here. Mutari, Sara, you see Sara at the top. All these different places, right? And this is the border between Virginia and North Carolina. He also went up to the Rappahannock River, which is very far from North Carolina. That's just like someone from DC going to New York or somewhere in New England. It's really far. Virginia is way bigger than people seem to realize, okay? So the people that he encountered were like the Saponi, now called the Saponi, the Monacan people, the people who call themselves the Cheraw, the Tuscarora people. I think he even encountered the Nottoway or Cheraw people. And he was commissioned by Governor William Berkeley. Basically, they wanted to expand the fur trade. So, the only reason they were here was for commerce. And that's basically what he was doing. Okay. And it says, which offered him the potential for a substantial personal profit. So these people were all about themselves. And the big thing then was the fur trade, because they had already killed a lot of their animals over in Europe, which they don't really talk about. So they came here to get a lot of the skins. And we talked about the beaver skin trade before. But this time they're kind of getting into deer skins because they're larger. And you can use them to make, leather couches, shoes, different things. I don't even know what they had. Boots then. I don't think they really had shoes. Okay, so this says that in 1671, a year after Lederer's, did I say that right? Y'all know how I get with the names. Expedition, Abraham Wood sent Thomas Batts and Robert Fallen for Fort Henry Petersburg to the west, and they reached the New River, becoming the first colonists to have known to cross the Eastern Continental Divide. In 1673, James Needham and Abriel Arthur left Fort Henry to establish trading connections with the Cherokee. And they followed the route used by Lederer on his second journey to Saponi, Akenazty on the Roanoke River, which they call Akenazty, and Sara in North Carolina. So this is a translation of his journals. William Talbot, which Talbot County, Maryland is named after. He was the one that translated the German or Latin into English. Okay. So there's a lot of blah, blah, blah. And here's another map right here. You see the Virginia Company logo, or I don't know what you want to call it, right here with the crown. And this actually looks like the Maryland flag now. But that's the Virginia Company. Okay. And this says this is Augustine Herman's 1670 map. It shows no awareness for the river patterns west of the Blue Ridge. And this is from the Library of Congress. And it's just basically talking about the expeditions. I mean, I'd rather us read it from the actual point of view of this person, you know, because all this stuff is speculation, right? Latoya, yeah, just email me at thetashashi@gmail.com if you have genealogy questions. Or yeah, the fur trade, right? Hudson Bay Company as well. Yeah, coats. Coats actually comes from the Powhatan word match coats. Okay, match coat. The show Frontier is about this with the obvious hijack. Okay. I never watched that show, Chief Changemaker. I'll check it out on Netflix. I'll check it out. Halito Linda. Yes, please. Everyone hit the like button and share it out. Y'all know my channel shadow banned. That's probably why y'all didn't even get no notifications, right? That's why I haven't really been going live much, because I know it's shadow banned. And all my subscribers and, you know, people who watch similar channels aren't getting any type of notification or seeing it on their feed. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, it was a whole empire. They actually go into the different emperors that were involved with these towns, Geo. So we're going to get into that. You said, MCART, if I have a moment, please let us know about the prominent surnames associated with these tribes. Okay, sure. Serena, you said you're a Smallwood from the Indian Woods. How can I find my tribes? I believe that's Tuscarora. That whole Indian Woods area. Let me see. Gonna get into this. Okay, let me start with the Cheraw, because I have a whole, y'all know I've been compiling this list. Let me see what I got already, because I wasn't really planning to do the surnames today, MCART, but I'll do it for y'all. Haven't been on here for a minute. Okay, so Tuscarora, some of the surnames: Paget, Lawson, Barber, Lyles, Hooks, Tyler, Blunt, Falker, like Meet the Falkers, and Ivy. Oh, Cheraw in the house. Sarah. This is Pill Pot. Okay. What tribe is that, Latoya? Latoya? I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Y'all know I mess people's name up, and I apologize. Yeah, just let me know which one. You hit the notification bell. Thank you, Mad Black King. Yeah, you know what they be doing? When they do the update, sometimes people, they get unsubscribed. I don't know if they're manually doing it or is because these different updates that they're doing to their system. But yeah, please make sure you guys check that bell button and click the gray bell so you can get all the notifications and join the notification tribe. Okay, some of the Sara or Sula or Cheraw, this is the same people. Some of their surnames are Scott, Oxidine, Jacobs, Porter, Mayo, Perkins, Goins, and Simmons. Okay, so these are the people that we're talking about today. Saponi, I got some of these surnames. Whitmore, Watkins, Jeffries, Guy, Burnett, Stewart, Bunch, Gibson, Collins, Korn, Jones, Hathcock, Turner, Wilson, Goins, Hickman, Harris, Richardson, Simmons, Bowden, White, Allen, Sana, George Harrison, Pryor, like Richard Pryor, Mack, Irving, like Michael Irving, Manhip. I think I got Collins twice. I got Collins twice. Griffin, like Peter Griffin. Mac Cartoon. Bowling or Boeing. Branham, Riddle, Bunch, Bolin. I said Bolin. I gotta edit this list. Goins, Sizemore, Robinson, Whitmore, Carr, Guy, Dempsey, Johnson, Mack, Richardson, Silvers, Mills, Austin. Yes, White for Saponi. Stewart, Copeland, Hodge or Hedgepath. I think that's how you say it. You have Allen. Okay. Stewart, Nichols, Shepard, Coleman, Martin, like Martin, Martin, Johns, Taylor, Ellis, Anderson, Tom, Irvin with the E, Valentine, like Phil Valentine, Goins, Sizemore, Bunch, Coker, like Steve Coker, Rickman, Whitmore, Mullins, I think I say Perkins already, Harrison, because we got Harris and Harrison, Holy and Petford. Okay. And they're going to talk about the Rappahannock people too. Did I say Holman? Holy. I said Holy or Holly. I don't think I said Holman. Let me check. I said Hickman. Hickman's on there. I'm going to check Holman again for you. I said Coleman, like Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman. Mm-hmm. Gary Coleman, one of y'all. Rappahannock tribe, Nelson, Bird, Spurlock, Sanders, Johnson, Carter, Clark, Fortune, Parker, Richardson, and Jeter, like Derek Jeter. All right. And yes, I'm chewing my gum today, y'all. Heathcock is your family. Okay, good. Okay, at least some people getting some connection. Carters, yes, there's a whole lot of Carters. That's like one of the most popular names in Virginia. Yes, Carters. I'm related to the Carters. All right, so that's some of the surnames. And then we're going to get into these people. So these might be your people. I'm going to have to switch the share button for y'all. I'm about to get into the discoveries of John Lederer. I think I said it right. Y'all know how it gets. You say you got Pleasance and Lack. Those are definitely Virginia surnames, Christy. And I don't have them on my list yet, but I'm definitely going to find it, especially because of Henrietta Lacks and her, her popularity. Yeah, Mims is the same as Sims. And we have said Simmons, and I said Robinson too, Vicky. So all those families are related to this document. Hold on, what I was about to do? Oh, give me 1 second, y'all. The Carters, I just said Rappahannock. So the Carters are in a lot of different tribes. Carters are a large family in Virginia and North Carolina. I'm looking back on the list for y'all. I hope y'all don't fall asleep because y'all know y'all be saying my voice is soothing and stuff, and y'all be intentionally putting it on to go to sleep at night, right? And get this knowledge subliminally. So don't fall asleep. I know it's kind of late for some people. It's a little, it's a decent hour on the West Coast, but it's like 11:30 over here in the East. Yeah, Carters were Rappahannock. And they're also associated with like the Mattaponi and the Pamunkey because there was a plantation over there which a lot of the Virginia Indians were enslaved on by Robert Carter. And allegedly, he was a fair plantation runner. I think we need to come up with better terms for slave master. But he was a fair plantation runner. And in his will, he freed probably like, thousands of Carters. Okay. And some people took on that surname. Some people kept their surnames that they already had, right? Because we had surnames, No, Dolby is not associated with these tribes. Sonic King. Yeah, you said it's 8 over here. Good. Yeah, it's perfect time, Lexi. How you doing? Peace. Bunch. Let me check. 80s, babe. So definitely said bunch. And I got a new mic if it sounds like all this. I don't like the mics because I feel like I have to hold my breath. I can't breathe like I want to breathe. I don't want to be blowing all in your ear because I know how it is to be. I have headphones on now. And I know when you have headphones, that stuff be annoying. Okay. Bunch. No, that's not Rappahannock. Bunch right here. I see bunch. Saponi. Bunch is associated with Saponi. She was from Branchland. So what I was saying is Robert Carter, I think in 1790, around that time, he freed like thousands of his enslaved workers, quote unquote, laborers. I don't know what you want to call people. I'm trying to have better terms than what they want to call people slaves, which is a spell within itself because that's talking about the Slavic people. That's not talking about us, right? So in 1790, Robert Carter, he made sure that these people were free, and a lot of them he gave pieces of his land, which pissed off his direct descendants. Okay, and some people, he did have some enslaved children. Okay, and that could be a major reason why he did do that. But he was allegedly a Christian man, and he felt that the whole institution of slavery was wrong. But people play along with the game and until they, don't have to anymore because he's passed on. Oh, no problem, 80s babe. So we're about to get into this discoveries. Okay. Oh, I know what I was doing. I was trying to pull up the chat so I can see what y'all saying. So if I'm breathing on this mic funny, that's because I feel like I can't breathe into it. Like you breathe in somebody's ear or something. I don't like that. I don't. The ear or something. Oh, that's the echo. That's me pulling up the chat. Sorry, y'all. So we're about to get into this Helito copper color brown. So this is the discoveries of John Lederer in 3 several marches. That don't even that grammar don't even sound right. In 3 several marches from Virginia to the west of Carolina. Okay, those F looking things are S's. in other parts of the continent. Begun in March 1669 and ended in September 1670, together with a general map of the whole territory which he traveled, collected and translated out of the Latin from his discoverer. Is that what that says? From his discovery and writings by Sir William Talbot, Baronet. It means he's the baron. He was the baron of Maryland, right? And y'all saw that logo that I showed y'all is on the Maryland flag. Those from Maryland know. So a lot of the Maryland stuff still. Okay. So this is free copyright, right? This license in 1670. So that license been expired. So y'all can do what you want with this. All right. So let's get into this. I'm not reading that stuff. My lord, from this disclosure, it is clear that the long-looked-for discovery of the Indian Sea does nearly approach, and Carolina, out of her happy experience of your lordship, success and great undertakings, presume that the accomplishment of this glorious design is reserved for her, in order to which the Apalatean mountains, though like the prodigious wall that divides China and Tartary, they deny Virginia passage into the West Continent. Stoop to your lordship dominions and lay open a prospect into the unlimited empires. Okay, y'all notice they say empires right here, right? They know we had empires. Empires that will hereafter be ambitious of subjection to that noble government which by your lordship deep wisdom and providence first projected is now established in Carolina, for it will appear that she flourishes more by the influence of that than the advantages she derives from her climate and soil, which yet do render her the beauty and envy of North America. Okay, so they're giving Carolina the props. That all her glory should be seen in this draught is not reasonably to be expected, since she sate, I don't know which word that's supposed to be nowadays, sate to my author but once, and then to a side face. And therefore I must own it was never by him designed for the press, but published by me. So wait a minute. He's saying that John never wanted to put this information out, but he gonna publish it anyways, basically. Out of no other ambition than that of manifesting to the world that I am my lord, your lordship, most humble, obedient servant, William Talbot. So William, like, I don't care if he wants this to be a private journal, we're gonna publish this. Right? We're gonna publish it. He said make the screen bigger. I don't know how to do that. Let me see. How can I make it bigger? Hold on, y'all. Let me see. Like I said, I got a new I have a new computer, and then I got a new let me see. Is that bigger? I don't think that's bigger. Hold on. I don't think that's bigger at all. Is that better, y'all? Can y'all put 3 in the chat? Is that's better? 3 in the chat. 3 in the chat. Kel said zoom in too. Yeah, put 3 in the chat, y'all. If this is good, yeah, I can make it bigger. Let me know. If it's not good, that's good, Kels. Okay, thank you. All right, And I got to go back to where I was. So that basically was William Talbot saying that John, we just going to call him John. John, he wrote that as a person. He wrote this as a personal journal, and it wasn't meant to be published, but they're gonna publish it anyway. Okay, to the reader, that a stranger should presume, though with Sir William Berkeley's commission, to go into those parts of the American continent where Englishmen never had been, and whether some refused to accompany him, was in Virginia looked on as so great an insolence that our traveler at his return, instead of welcome and applause, met nothing but affronts and reproaches. Well, dang, people ain't want no parts of it, basically. For indeed, it was their part that forsook him in the expedition to procure him discredit that was a witness of theirs. So they basically trying to discredit what he was doing. Therefore, no industry was wanting to prepare men with a prejudice against him, and that their malice approved to such a great general animosity that he was not safe in Virginia from the outrage of the people, drawn into a, I don't know what word is that supposed to be, persuasion, that the public levy of that year went all to the expense of his vagaries. So they basically ain't pay him for this. Because usually when you work for the government or governor, they'll pay you to do these expeditions so they can open up the frontier. But he did this on his own. And people was pissed off. Because, when you go into these territories without treaties, then you have issues, right? And people didn't know what was out there for one. And then they didn't want to get ran up on for two. OCO, Amir Copper Indian. Yeah, they ain't want no parts in that, basically. Forced by the storm into Maryland, he became known to me, though then ill affected to the man, by the stories that went on about of him. All right. So he had a lot of people gossiping about him, basically. Nevertheless, finding him, contrary to my expectation, a modest and ingenuous person, and a pretty scholar. All right, so he was cool. I thought it was common justice to give him an occasion of vindicating himself from what I heard of him. Okay, he said he trying to give him a chance to clear his name, which truly he did with so convincing reason and circumstance, as quite abolished those former impressions in me, and made me desire this account of his travels, which here you have faithfully rendered out of the Latin from his own writings and discourse, with an entire map of the territory he traversed. Okay, traveled, copied from his own hand. Okay, so he was like, all right, I heard some stuff about him. I wasn't sure, but he kind of cleared his name. He's pretty cool. He's a scholar, right? So he's like, well, let me read these travels and see what he got into. Basically. All right. All these I have compared with the Indian relations of those parts, though I never met with any Indian that have followed a southwest course so far as this German. And finding them agreed, I thought the printing of these papers was no injury to the author and might prove a service to the public. Okay. So that's saying, like, from his knowledge, that the Indians in that area that they were at was just mostly the Powhatan Nation, Chernhaka, Nottoway people, right? Some Cherokee was over there, some Monacan. These people haven't really traveled way over there like that, basically. So he was saying, kind of trying to clear his name, showing how brave John was, and it might be very serviceable, right, to everybody else. I'm trying to break it down as simple as I can. All right. A general and brief account of North American continent. North as well as South America may be divided into three regions: the flats, the highlands, and the mountains. The flats in Indian, Akent, I think that's how they say it. They don't tell you what language that is. So Akent is the flats. That's the Piedmont area as well. Piedmont. Territory lying between the East Coast and the falls of the great rivers that they run into the Atlantic Ocean. Oh no, he's talking about the Tidewater area. An extent generally taken 90 miles. The highlands in Indian, Akanshuk or Shuk, Akanshuk. This sounds like the Powhatan language. Began in those falls and determined at the foot of the great ridge of mountains that runs through the midst of this continent, southeast and southwest, called by the Spaniards Apalateans. Apalateans, from the nation Apalacan, and by the Indians Panote. No, according to the best of my observation and conjecture, they lie parallel to the Atlantic seacoast, that bearing from Canada to Cape Florida, northeast and southwest, and then falling off due west as the mountains do at Sara. But here they take the name Sula, Sara in the Warren Nunkuk dialect, being Sasa or Suli. Okay, and we know a lot of our grandmas and great grandmas and people like that have those names. Sara, right? I have a great grandma with that name. Suli, you know, Sasa or Sasa, kind of like Tasha, right? So we know those people. That's where those names come from, right? That's where our family gets these names from. All right. Can y'all still hear me? The chat kind of got dry real quick. I don't know if y'all still awake up in here. But yeah, so the flats or the Akent are by former writers made so well known to Christendom, right? Like Christianity, that I will not stop the reader here with an unnecessary description of them, but shall only say that by the rankness of the soil and salt moistness of the air, daily discoveries of fish shells, 3 fathom deep in the earth, and Indian tradition, these parts are supposed some ages past to have lain under the sea. Y'all get that? A lot of that. Okay, so that's showing that's talking about like the Great Flood and the different sea levels, right? Like now, if y'all watched my last video about the moon wobble, talking about the rising sea levels, this is basically showing that the sea levels had lowered, okay, a lot. And a lot of this area in Virginia and North Carolina used to be underwater, and it looked like it's about to be back underwater, right? Yep, on the East Coast. Exactly. So that I found that was, very interesting. Okay, the highlands or the Akanshuk, though under the same parallels, are happy notwithstanding in a more temperate and healthful air. The ground is overgrown with underwood in many places, and that so perplexed the interwoven with the vines that who travels here must sometimes cut through this way. So we're talking about we had lush forest out here. And now we do have those type of vines and things. Some people don't know. And in this area over here, Virginia, North Carolina, we do have those long, thick vines in certain wooded areas. Got a question, 80s babe? We got a queenie, a birdie, a sweetie. Those are my aunts, and I don't know what kind of names that they just known from the Carolinas. Well, they could be from Sugaree over there in Anderson County, North Carolina. One of my cousins was just talking about this on Facebook. Sugaree, right? Sweetie, those names. Birdie, Queenie. I mean, those are kind of common amongst our elders. Like little, little sweet nicknames. Okay. Let's see. These thickets harbor all sorts of beasts of prey as wolves, panthers, leopards, lions. Okay, you hear me? This is North Carolina and Virginia. They said they had wolves, panthers, leopards, lions, etc. Okay, in the woods. This is in 1669, right? Yes, okay. Which are neither so large nor so fierce as those of Asia and Africa. And small verni, like vermin. Did I say it right? Vermin, yeah. As wildcats, okay, like the little bobcats, foxes, and raccoons. And I believe raccoons are only found in America naturally or natively. Yeah, leopards and lions. 80s spade. Leopards and lions. Yes, that's what we had over here. Okay, like a jaguar and stuff. In Virginia, in North Carolina. Now, some people are saying, right, that they have been spotting these panthers, these black panthers, and they have been spotting mountain lions and I don't know. There was a leopard that got out. I think that was one of the exotic animals, though, that was shipped here. But people are finding mountain lions, which a lot of people didn't think were here at all. And now you see on here that they were here in ancient, well, not ancient, a couple hundred years ago. Okay. Miss Wilma Jean, you said your great grandmother's first real name is Rainey. She's from South Carolina. Yeah, because the Siouan language, there's a lot of E, right? Congaree, sugaree, stuff like that. They like using those E's. These parts were formerly possessed by the Taki or the Doggy, but they are extinct. And the Indians now seated here are distinguished into the several nations of Maho, Nun, Tanuik, alias Nuntali. I know some people use that last name, Nuntali. Nasen, Sapon, Managok, and Managoic, and Akenazty, and Monacan, etc. So these are the Siouan language speakers right here. These are the Siouan languages. Okay, one language is common to them all, though they differ in dialects. The parts inhabited here are pleasant and fruitful because cleared of wood and laid open to the sun. So this is the Piedmont area, the valley areas. So traditionally what we did was we burnt a lot of the forest here because we had buffalo. Yes, so this is sound crazy. We had wolves, panthers, lions, leopards, buffalo running around, raccoons, foxes. It sounds like a cartoon or something. All right. And the valleys feed numerous herds of deer and elk larger than the oxen. Okay, so we had plentiful animals and plentiful forests and plentiful, vegetables, fruits, and stuff here. These valleys they call savannas or savanni or savanna, right? This is the savanna. So that word comes from our languages here, right? They got a savanna in Africa, but that word comes from over here. So being marsh grounds at the foot of the Apalateans and yearly laid under water in the beginning of summer by floods of melted snow falling down from the mountains. Okay. The Apalatean Mountains, called in Indian Payanotinic, or the origin of the Indians. That's interesting. Paymotinic means the origin of the Indian. Are barren rocks and therefore deserted by all living creatures but bears who cave in the hollow cliffs. Yet do these mountains shoot out to the eastward great promontories of the rich land known by the high and spreading trees which they bear. These promontories, because lower than the main ridge, are called by the Indians Tax Metonic, okay, alas Aquat, okay, so this means the origin of the Indians, right? Tax means little in the Powhatan language. So the little origin of the Indians is basically what they call these mountains and territories. To the northeast, the mountains rise higher, and at Sara, they sink so low that they are easily passed over. But here, as was said before, they changed their course and name, running due west and being called Suli. And wasn't there a book like Toni Morrison or someone, Suli or Sula? Y'all remember that? Now the Sulian Mountains rise higher and higher westward. Okay. Of the manners and custom of the Indians inhabiting the western parts of Carolina and Virginia. The Indians now seated in these parts are none of those which the English removed from Virginia, right? Because we know they ran out a lot of the tribes on the Tidewater area on the coastline. But people driven by an enemy from the northwest and invited to sit down here by an oracle above 400 years since, as they pretend, for the ancient inhabitants of Virginia were far more rude and barbarous, feeding only upon raw flesh and fish, until these taught them to plant corn and showed them the use of it. Okay, so this is going into what we have talked about many times on this channel about the Great Migration that a lot of these people had from the West, right? And from Mexico coming over to Virginia and North Carolina. So they're saying that the people who were here before only ate like raw food, raw meat, stuff like that, until it was taught that you need to have balance. You need to have corn and vegetables and things like that. All right. And it was an oracle that told them to travel here. Okay. So this is talking about some of the people, like I said, from Mexico, from the West. Okay. So they're talking about the Ohio Valley Northwest. This is what they're talking about. But before I treat of their ancient manners and customs, it's necessary that I should show by what means the knowledge of them hath been conveyed from the former ages to posterity, from back in the days to now. 3 ways they supplied their want of letters. First, by counters. Okay, so basically they say we had numbers, right? We did math, which they tried to act like we were barbarians. Secondly, by emblems or hieroglyphics. Okay, so we had hieroglyphics and we had words. Thirdly, by tradition delivered in long tales from father to son, which being children, they are made to learn by rote. So by memory, they have fathers, right, to son. So the father teaches the son the story, and the son has to remember it so he can teach his sons. Okay. I don't know what they did when a person didn't have a son. Maybe he teaches his nephews. Who knows? For counters, they use pebbles or short scoundlings of straw or reeds. Where a battle has been fought or a colony seated, they raise a small pyramid of these stones. And I told some people about this before, consisting of the number slain or transplanted. So if you walk in the woods, I know in places like West Virginia, the western side of Virginia, even over here in Tidewater, Virginia, you will go in the woods and you'll see these stacks of stones, like little stone pyramids. And those are from the battles. And those are every fallen soldier, right? So those are like you're not supposed to move it because they're actually gravestones. So they would bury people in one heap, right? And then they'll stack these pyramids, stone pyramids up. Hola, Diane. How you doing? Oh no, you good. You're not late. So yeah, so if you see those, do not touch them. Do not disturb them. They're on your private land. I mean, just make sure to take care of them. Don't let nobody mess with them. Because we had a lot of those be bulldozed, just like our mounds here. Those are very important to us. Okay, their reeds and straw serve them in religious ceremonies, for they lay them orderly in a circle when they prepare for devotion or sacrifice. And that perform, the circle remains still, for it is sacrilege to disturb or to touch it. The disposition and sorting of the straws and reeds show what kind of rites that they have been celebrated as invocation, sacrifice, burial, etc. Okay, so they're showing some of our spirituality that we did. The facilities of the mind and body they commonly express with emblems, by the figure of a stag. Okay, stag like a horse, right? They imply swiftness, a stag or horse or deer. By that of a serpent, wrath. Okay, this is what the meanings of it. Okay, so a deer or a horse means swiftness in a hieroglyphs. A serpent means wrath. Of a lion, courage. Of a dog, fidelity. By a swan, they signify the English. Okay, that's the Europeans. How I miss a mahogany love. Okay, alluding to their complexion and and flight over the sea. An account of time and other things that kept a string or leather thong tied, not the thong Cisco was talking about, y'all. They keep a string or leather thong, all right, tied in knots of several colors, right? Beadings. And they're talking about the beadings and stuff. I took particular notice of small wheels, okay, for this serving for this purpose among the Onaks. Because I have heard that the Mexicans use the same, okay? That's more confirmation of the migration from Mexico. So they're talking about y'all know the little emblems, the beaded emblems that we have. Okay, that's basically what they're talking about. Usually like a medicine wheel, or, they'll have like an animal in the middle, like an eagle or a thunderbird or a phoenix in the middle. That's exactly what he's talking about. Every nation gives his particular insight or arms. Okay, so basically saying we all had their special coat of arms. The Susquehanna, a tarapine or a small turtle. The Akenazty, a serpent. So these are the things that they would have in their little beaded emblem. The Nasains, 3 arrows, etc. In this, they likewise agree with the Mexican Indians. Mm-hmm. Hello, Yadmin. Yadmin. They worship one God, creator of all things. Okay, so there's some people acting like we were atheists over here, and we only worship multiple gods. Okay, but we worship one God, creator of all things. We had one creator. Then we had the deities, right? Whom some call Oki, others Manith. So this is not correct about Oki. We had Oki was the god, but we also had the great spirit of creation itself, create the wind, all the stuff was a home. Then we had Oki, which basically was like the parent. He was kind of like a father figure or parent figure, mother, not necessarily mother, because Ahon was the mother, like Mother Earth. It's a feminine energy. Oki was the masculine energy. Okay. So the Palatine call him Oki, and others call him Manith, which probably was the Saponi or the Siouan speakers. To him alone, the high priest or the Periku offers sacrifice, and yet they believe he has no regard to sublunary affairs. So they're saying that he don't really care about what's going on down here, but commits the government of mankind to lesser deities, as the Quiacoso and the Tag Caniso, that is, good and evil spirits. So the Quiricos, which were like the priests, they would devote to these good spirits. To these, the inferior priests pay their devotion and sacrifice, at which they make recitals to a lamentable tune, songs, basically they sang, of the great things done by their ancestors. All right. From 4 women, Pash, Sepoy, Askarin, and Mara Sakarin, they derive the race of mankind, which they therefore divide into 4 tribes, distinguished under several names. So he's talking about one of the creation stories, basically, that we came from 4 women, Pash, Sepoy, Askarin, and Mara Sakarin. Those are the 4 women we allegedly came from, that divided into 4 tribes. They are very religiously observe the degrees of marriage, which they limit not to distance of kindred, but difference of tribe. So they basically, we ain't deal with no incest, basically, which are continued in the issue of the females, okay? Matrilineal. Now, from 2 of the same tribe to match is abhorred, no incest, as incest, and punished with great severity. So they're saying that the men could not marry women in their same tribe, right? So traditionally, that's why our men would travel to find wives or to court wives, okay? And sometimes the women will travel to find their husbands because they had they had options. They had their options. Okay. Their places of burial, they divide into 4 quarters, assigning to every tribe 1. For to mingle their bodies, even when dead, they hold wicked and ominous. Okay. They commonly wrap up the corpse in beast skin, right? Deer skin or beaver skin, whatever, and bury it with its provision and household stuff for its use in the other world. Now, doesn't that sound familiar to some people? Yep, you said Akhenaten started the first monotheist religion out of Egypt. Maybe a photonic connection to the Akenazty. Yeah, the Akenazty. Oh, it's definitely. I don't think it's dealing with that. Those Akenaztys from Russia. I don't think so. But yeah, this sounds very similar to what the ancient Kemites or ancient Egyptians did when they would bury their dead with household things and provisions for the next life. When their great men die, they likewise slay prisoners of war to attend them. So, like the people that they had caught in war, they would kill them to serve their great men in the afterlife. And that's very similar to Akhenaten, right? King Tut, all the people over there, right? They believe that the transmigration of souls for the angry, they say, is possessed with the spirit of a serpent. Okay, this goes into the path of the souls. I'm gonna have that video, finally have that video ready for y'all soon. Hopefully by the end of the weekend, I'll have it up. I've been working on it. So this is a part of the path of the souls, right? But the serpent represents the Draco star system. The bloody with that of a wolf, the timorous of a deer, the faith of a dog. Now, dogs are very important in our culture. Most dogs are actually descend from dogs that are native to America, right? Most of the breeds we have out now, right? Some believe that dogs are only from the, indigenous to America. They were first found in America and they spread out. Just like with the lions, just like with the cheetahs, right? Just like with the elephants. A lot of these animals that are in Africa today are from here, okay? Or in other places, not just Africa, but they try to act like Africa, everything originated there. That's the motherland of everything. But how come all these animals and stuff and all these plants, different things come from here? Got to question some of these. He said the Akenazty were counterfeit. Yeah, I don't really know the history of them people like that. I can only talk about our people over here because I don't know what they got going on. Okay. Elizum, what is that? Elysium, or the abode of their lesser deities, they place beyond the mountains and Indian Ocean. Okay. So where is that? Where is beyond the mountains and the Indian Ocean? They're not talking about the Atlantic Ocean, they're talking about on the West Coast. Where would that be? Okay. You got to ask Australia, maybe? That's over there. Wait a minute. Is Australia in the Indian Ocean? I don't know. Y'all got to look in the map and see. Though they want those means of improving human reason, which the use of letters afford us, writing, reading, let us not therefore conclude them wholly destitute of learning and sciences, for by these little helps which they have found, many of them advance their natural understandings to great knowledge in physics, rhetoric, and the policy of government. We know because they stole a lot of government stuff from us. For I have been present at several of their consolations and debates. Okay, y'all hear that? We had debates and political meetings and stuff. And to my admiration, have heard some of their seniors deliver themselves with as much judgment and eloquence as I should have expect from men of civil education and literature. All right, so he's about to get into the first expedition from the head of the Pimeon Cock, which is the Pamunkey, York River, due west to the top of the Apalatean Mountains. Upon the 9th of March, 1669, with 3 Indians whose names were Mangtakon, Hapotogao, and Nang Nung, I went out at the falls of Pemancock, aka York River in Virginia, from an Indian village called Chickahominy. I think that's Chickahominy. Chickahominy, and lay that night in the woods, encountering nothing remarkable but a rattlesnake of an extraordinary length and thickness, for I judged it 2 yards and a half for better or from head to tail, and as big as a man's arm. What the heck? By the distension of her belly. We believed her full with young, so she was pregnant. But having killed and opened her, found there was a small squirrel hole. What? That's it's like an anaconda or something, which caused in me a double wonder. First, how a reptile should catch so nimble a creature as a squirrel, and having caught it, how could she swallow it entire? The Indians, in resolving my doubts, plunged me into a greater astonishment when they told me that it was usual of these serpents, when they lie basking in the sun, to fetch down these squirrels from the tops of trees by fixing their eyes steadfastly upon them, the horror of which strikes such an affrightment in the little beast that he has no power to hinder himself from tumbling down into the jaws of his enemy, who takes in all his substance without chewing his teeth, serving him only to offend withal. That is crazy. So basically, the snake just look at this squirrel and scares the crap out of him, and he fall out of the tree. But I rather believe that I have heard from others that these serpents climb the trees and surprise their prey within the nest. The next day, falling into marsh grounds between Pamancock and the head of the river Mattapinon, okay, that's the Mattaponi River, the heaviness of the way obliged me to cross the Pamancock, where its north and south branch called the Apamic or Acmic join in one, and the peninsula made by these two branches, a great Indian king called Tatapama, which is my ancestor, Tutapamoy, was therefore slain in battle, fighting for the Christians against the Manhawks and the Nassanes, from whence it remains his name to this day. Yes, so the river is named after him. They're talking about the Battle of Bloody Run. Okay, they was killing so many people. It was so bloody that the whole river was red with blood. Okay, he died in this battle. Traveling through the woods, a doe seized by a wildcat crossed our way. The miserable creature, being even spent and breathless with the burden of the cruelty of her rider, who was having fastened on her shoulder, left not sucking out her blood until she sunk under him, which one of the Indians perceived, let fly a lucky arrow, which pierced him through the belly, and made him quit his prey already slain, and turn with terrible grimace at us. So basically, they shot the wildcat, probably one of the mountain lions. But his strength and spirit failing him, we escaped his revenge, which had certainly ensued, were not his wounds mortal. Okay, so he got killed. Basically, he died. This creature is something bigger than our English fox, of a reddish gray color and in figure every way agreeing with an ordinary cat, fierce, ravenous, cunning, for finding the deer, upon which they delight most to prey, too swift for them, they watch upon branches of trees as they walk or feed under, jump down upon them. Okay, so they basically hang out in the trees and jump down. And so you're talking about a jaguar. Y'all know how jaguars do. They can climb the trees and then they wait till somebody come by and they jump on them. All right, that sounds scary. Okay, to think that our ancestors were walking around with these jaguars and stuff up in the trees. That's just so scary. Oh my gosh. The fur of the wild cat, though not very fine, is yet esteemed for its virtue and taking away cold aches and pains, being worn next to the body. Their flesh, though rank as a dog's, is eaten by the Indians. So I know a couple of people have pointed out the pictures with showing the people with the leopard skins and these different skins on them. It's saying that was actually a medicine, those leopard skins, wildcat skins. It says it takes away cold, aches, and pains. Okay. Oops, sorry. The 11th and 12th, I found the ways very uneven and cumbered with bushes. The 13th, I reached the spring of the Pamayan cock monkey, having crossed the river 4 times that day by reason of its many windings, but the water was so shallow that it hardly wet my horse's pattens. Here, a little under the surface of the earth, I found flat pieces of petrified matter. Of one side, solid stone, but on the other side, ensingolas. I don't know what that is, which I easily peeled off in flakes about 4 inches square. Several of these pieces with a transparent stone like crystal that cut glass, and a white marchesite, which I purchased of the Indians, I presented to Sir William Berkeley, Governor of Virginia. Okay, so they found some petrified crystals and stuff. The 14th of March, on the top of an eminent hill, I first described the Apalatean mountains, bearing due west to the place I stood upon. The distance from me was so great that I could hardly discern whether they were mountains or clouds, until my Indian fellow travelers, prostrating themselves in adoration, howled out after a barbarous manner, Okipaloozie, Okipuzi, Okiposi, excuse me. Okiposi. God is nigh. Right? God is here. The 15th of March, not far from this hill, passing over the south branch of the Rappahannock River, I was almost swallowed in a quicksand. Okay. Okay, we had quicksand here. Great hurt. Now, I have seen big patches of mud here, and we as children we joke that it's quicksand. We play like it's quicksand, but to actually hear that they had quicksand here, it's crazy. Great herds of red and fallow deer I daily saw feeding on the hillsides. Bears crashing mash like swine. Small leopards I have seen in the woods, but never any lions, though their skins are much worn by the Indians. Okay. Right. So, we had a bunch of those trolls telling us that these pictures that we have the drawings of the Indians that look like us, and they're wearing these lion skins and things was fake. They're trying to say that these people never the Europeans never saw these people and they're drawing them wrong and they're making up stuff. But right here, we're seeing that the Indians wore these lion skins all the time. It says much worn by the Indians. So it was a common occurrence to see Indians wearing lion skins, okay? And like I said before, the lions are indigenous to America, not Africa, okay? Those African lions that they have over there, they descend from the lions over here. And the question is that we keep getting, how did those lions get to Africa? All right, how did they fly? I mean, what, they swam to Africa? I really doubt they had any incentive to swim that long way, thousands of miles. What, 3,000 miles, depending on where you're coming from? That don't even make no logical sense. right? So the people over here had to have traveled there with their lions, with their cheetahs, with their jaguars, leopards, right? With their elephants, stuff like that, okay? The wolves in these parts are so ravenous that I often in the night feared my horse would be devoured by them. They would gather up and howl so close around him, though teetered to the same tree at whose foot I myself and the Indians lay. But the fires which we made, I suppose, scared them from worrying us all. Beaver and otter I met with at every river that I passed, and the woods are full of gray foxes. We don't got none of that now. But I think we still have some beavers and stuff. Of course, we have deer, but we don't have red. We don't have red deer. I don't think so. You said you didn't get an alert, Indigenous Chippewa? Yeah, that's why I was telling people to go back and hit that gray bell button. Make sure you hit that again because they doing some funny stuff. And I heard several other people talking about how they are shadow banding a lot of these, a lot of us melanated content creators who are speaking truth and speaking right. And, not people, no offense to other people, but we ain't doing no makeup videos and hair videos and video games, so they don't make as much money off of us as they make off of gamers and beauty content creators and stuff. And it's no offense to them because I watch those channels. I'm just saying. Thus I traveled all the 16th, and on the 17th of March I reached Apalateans. The air here is very thick and chill, and the waters ensuing from the mountainsides of a blue color and a luminous taste, a lumish taste. I never heard of a lumish. Yeah, they're doing a lot of us like that, Indigenous Chippewa. The 18th of March, after I had in what? After I had in vain essayed to ride up, I alighted and left my horse with one of the Indians, while which the other two I climbed up the rocks, which were so encumbered with bushes and brambles that the ascent proved very difficult. So he basically said they had a hard time climbing up because of the bushes and crap everywhere. Besides, the first precept was so steep that if I looked down, I was immediately taken by swimming in my heart. Okay, he has a fear of heights. Though afterwards, the way was more easy. The height of this mountain is very extraordinary, for notwithstanding, I set out with the first appearance of light, and it was late in the evening before I gained the top, from whence the next morning I had a beautiful prospect or view of the Atlantic Ocean washing the Virginian shore. But to the north and west, my sight was suddenly bounded by mountains higher than that I had stood upon. Therefore, here did I wander in snow for the most part till the 24th day of March, hoping to find some passage through the mountains. Okay, y'all, I'm reading this old English, so bear with me. Hoping to find some passage through the mountains, but the coldness of the air and earth together, seizing my hand and feet with numbness, getting frostbite, put me to an N plus ultra, and therefore, having found my Indian at the foot of the mountain with my horse, I returned back by the same way that I went. All right, so that's the completion of his first expedition. We're about to get into the second one right now. He's going to go more into what the actual towns were like, some of the emperors. Only one he talked about Totopomoy or Totopomoy, he was the king of, he was actually the emperor at that time. And several Powhatan tribes, Pamunkey and other tribes like that. And then his wife, which is also my ancestor, Chief Kokoeski, she became the empress of all those nations, which included the Chiranhaka and the Monacan, who were under her in the Treaty of Mental Plantation. Okay. So this is the second expedition from the Falls of Powhatan, aka James River in Virginia, to the Mohawk or the Mohawk in the Apalatean Mountains. You say you do believe there was lions in, yeah. Oh, it's scientifically proven that there was lions in America, because the lions, they originated in America. You can look that up too in CART. Okay, I had to get a little bit of water, y'all. So the 20th of May in 1670, one Major Harris and myself with 20 Christian horse. Yeah, that's what it says. 20 Christian horse. Like I think he means horses. And 5 Indians marched from the falls of James River in Virginia towards the Monacans. And on the 2 and 20th were welcomed by them with volleys of shot. Near this village, we observed a pyramid of stones piled up together, which their priest told us was the number of an Indian colony drawn out by lot from a neighbor country, overpeopled and led hither by one monarch, from whom they take the name Monacan. Okay, so wait a minute. Let's read this again because this sounds confusing. Right, Nia. Yeah, we definitely had other big cats here too. So let's read this again. Near this village, we observed a pyramid of stones. I already told y'all that those pyramid of stones are for fallen soldiers, which their priest told us was the number of an Indian colony drawn out by lot from a neighboring country over people. Okay, so there's a neighboring country, right? And we know that our nations were considered countries, okay? So, like I said, Powhatan Nation, that's a whole country with tribes in it, right? The Saponi Nation, they had other tribes in it, or Sara tribe nation. Sara Nation. So this is what they're talking about, okay? And this is how the Monacan tribe or nation got their name, from Monarch, okay? And led hither by one monarch, okay? So basically, these people were in a war, okay? And they came from somewhere else, right? From a neighboring country that had too many people in it. And the excess people were led there by monarch, okay? Or monarch. But I think it's monarch because they're the Monacans. It makes sense. So monarch led all these people to Monacan town or Monacan nation, country, and that's where they got their name. Here, inquiring the way to the mountains, an ancient man described with a staff 2 paths on the ground, one pointing to the Mohawks and the other to the Nascents or Nasons. But my English companions, citing the Indians' direction, shaped their course by the compass due west, and therefore it fell out with us as it does with those land crabs, that crawling backwards in a direct line, avoid not the trees that stand in their way, but climb over their very tops, come down on the other side, and so after a day's labor gain, not above 2 foot of ground, thus we abstinently pursue a due west course, rode over steep and craggy cliffs, which beat our horses quite off the hoof, Oh, goodness. In these mountains, we wandered from the 25th of May until the 3rd of June. That's a long time. Finding very little substance for man or horse, for these places are destitute from both grain and herbage. All right, so they're basically almost starved out there. The 3rd of June, we came to the south branch of the James River, which Major Harris, observing to run northward, vainly imaged to be an arm of the Lake of Canada, and was so transported with this fancy that he would have raised a pillar to the discovery, if the fear of the Manhack Indian and want of food had permitted him to stay. Okay. And they're not talking about Canada, which we call the country Canada. Canada is an Algonquin word. So this is the Lake Canada. It's a lake just called Canada. Okay. Here moved across the river and march on, but the rest of the company were so weary of the enterprise that cry out one and all that they had offered violence to me. had I not been provided with a private commission from the governor of Virginia to proceed, though the rest of the company should abandon me, the sight of which laid their fury. Okay, so the people were so pissed off that they had been walking around. The horses were beat up. They were starving. They're like, we're not going no further. You go ahead by yourself, basically. The lesser hills, or the Akenazty, are here unpassable, being both steep and craggy. The rocks seem to me at a distance to resemble eggs set up on the end. James River here is as broad as it is about 100 miles lower at Monaghan. The passage over is very dangerous by reason of the rapid torrents made by rocks and shells forcing the water into narrow channels. So you can just imagine how violent this this river is and how wide it is at this point, you know. Lethal Lloyd, yeah, they couldn't really get into that. I'm trying to look at y'all comments. Okay. I don't see any new ones. Okay. So let's get back to it. From an observation which we made of straws and rotten chunks hanging in the boughs of the trees on the bank and 20 foot above water, we argue that the melted snow falling from the mountains swelled the river to that height, the flood carrying down the rubbish, which upon the abatement of the inundation remained in the trees. So a lot of the trees basically had a bunch of straws and mud and stuff in it because of the snow falling. The air in these parts was so moist that all our biscuits became moldy and unfit to be eaten. They're talking about not biscuits like we eat today. They're talking about cookies and stuff. So that some nicer stomachs who at our settling had laughed at our provisions of Indian meal parched would gladly now have shared with me. So he's saying that their biscuits got moldy and he had him some cornbread, and now that they were laughing at him for eating cornbread, and now he had his food was good and theirs wasn't, and he wasn't about to share it. But I, being determined to go upon further discoveries, refused to part with any of which was to be most necessary sustenance. Okay. So basically said, because y'all cowards and y'all want to go home, I'm not sharing my cornbread with y'all. That's basically what he's saying. The continuation of the second expedition from Manhack southwards into the province of Carolina. Okay, we're about to get into Carolina. The 5th of June, my company and I parted good friends and then back again, and I with one Susquehannock Indian named Jack Tavan. Look at these names now. Jack Z. Tavan. Now you know Who? Jack Z. Tavon. Y'all know some Tavons and Devons and all them. Jack Tays, we're going to call him Tavon. So Tavon only in pursuit of my first enterprise, changing my course from west to southwest. And by south to avoid the mountains, okay? Because everybody got tired and burnt out trying to go over the mountains. They're going to go under the mountains, okay? Major Harris at parting gave me a gun, believing me a lost man. He said, you crazy for keeping on. And given up as a prey to Indians or savage beasts, which made him the bolder in Virginia to report strange things in his own praise and my disparage, presuming I would never appear to disprove him. So he basically said he knew Major Harris gonna go back and run his mouth and talk, talk trash about him because he thought he was gonna die out there. This, I suppose, and no other, was the cause that he did with so much industry procure me discredit and odium. So basically discredit him. But I have lost nothing by it, but what I never studied to gain, which is popular appease. So he said he ain't do this for the clout. So he don't care, basically. He didn't do this for the clout. So you can talk all that trash you want to. From the 5th, which was Sunday, until the 9th of June, I traveled through difficult ways without seeing any town or Indian. And then I arrived at Sapon. Okay, this is where Sapon is. Sapon, a village of the Nascents. Okay, so the real name of the Saponi people are the Nahasans, right? Nahasans. You can say Nahasans. I think that sounds better. So the Saponi people are the Nahasans. Saponi is only a town within the Nahasans nation, about 100 miles distance from Mahawk, situated upon a branch of Shawan. What is it? Shawan. Situated upon a branch of the Shawan, which is the Roanoke, right? The Roanoke River. And though I had just cause to fear these Indians because they had been in a continual hostility with the Christians for 10 years before, yet presuming that the truck which I carried with me would procure my welcome. He ain't talking about a Ford pickup truck. He's talking about like a book bag, I think. I ventured to put myself into their power, having heard that they never offer any injury to a few persons from whom they apprehend no danger. Nevertheless, they examined me strictly when I came whither I went and what my business was. So basically, they interrogated him. But after I had bestowed some trifles of glass and metal among them, they were satisfied with reasonable answers. And I received with all imaginable demonstrations of kindness as offering of sacrifice, a compliment shrewd only to such as they design particularly to honor. But they went further and consulted their gods whether they should not admit me into their nation or in council, and obliged to me to stay amongst them by a marriage with the king or some of their great men's daughters. Okay, so he came to the town basically, right? He had some trinkets with him to give as a gift. All right, so they thought that was cool. And he said, okay, chill with us for a minute. We got to consult, They had to consult their gods, pray or whatever they were doing. Throw bones. I don't know what they did to figure out if he was cool or not. And they said, okay, you cool. They're like, you can stay here and you can marry one of our daughters. All right. If you want to join the crew. I don't know. I don't think that's what he was doing. But I, though, with much ado, waived their courtesies and got my passport, having given my word to return to them within 6 months. Okay. So that's what people used to do back in the day. You come in, You talk with the people, you get a passport, so they can let you walk through and be cool. Sometimes those things were like necklaces and stuff that you wore. And they knew that you were approved and you were allowed to walk through that territory. Okay. Sapon is within the limits of the province of Carolina. And as you may perceive by the figure, has all the attributes and requisite. What? I'm sorry, my brain is late, y'all. Requisite to a pleasant and advantageous seat. For though it stands high and upon a dry land, it encourages the benefit of a stately river and rich soil capable of producing many commodities, which may hereafter render the trade of it considerable. So he basically telling them, y'all, there's some good land, y'all can farm and make some money selling crops, basically. Not far distant from hence, not far from here, as I understood from the Nahasan Indians, the Saponi, is their king's residence called Pintahay upon the same river, and happy in the same advantages both for pleasure and profit, which my curiosity would have led me to see, were I not bound, both by oath and commission, to a direct pursuance of a intended purpose of discovering a passage to the further side of the mountains. So basically, he said if he weren't hired to go, find a way around the mountains, he would have went over there and hung out. This nation is governed by an absolute monarch. Okay, so they're showing the different levels of government and things like we had here. Okay, so this king is a monarch. The people are like a stature, warlike and rich. I saw great store of pearl on board in their little temples or oratories, which they had won amongst their spoils from the Indians of Florida and hold in a great esteem as we do. Okay, so it's saying the Saponi people was run by a king and they had a war that they won against the Florida Indians. They went all the way to Florida and they beat them up and they took the pearl. I said beat them up. And they took their pearls from them. Isn't that crazy? So that's showing you how the people traveled. And what reason would they have to go down to Florida to fight? You got to think about that. So some of us know that Route 1 that goes all the way on is on the Tidewater area from all the way from Maine. It goes from Maine or Canada up there all the way down to Key West to Florida, Route 1. So they probably took that road down to Florida to get these pearls and fight this war. From here or hence, by the Indians' instructions, I directed my course to Akenazty, an island bearing south and by west, and about 50 miles distant upon a branch of the same river from Sapon. So this was an island, allegedly, in the river Saponi River. You said the same tribe? They're saying it like these are different countries. They might speak the Siouan language, but these are different countries. The country here, though high, is level and for most part a rich soil, as I judge by the growth of the trees. Yet were inhabited by Indians, it lies open in spacious plains. Okay, this is the Piedmont areas, the plains area, and is blessed with a very healthful air, as appears by the age and vigor of the people. Though I traveled in the month of June, the heat of the weather hindered me not from riding at all hours without any great noise from the sun. So it was nice and cool and breezy over there. By easy journey, I landed at Akenazty upon the 12th of June. The current of the river here is so strong that my horse had much difficulty to resist it, and I expect every step to be carried away with the stream. This island, though small, maintains many inhabitants who were fixed here in great security, being naturally fortified with fastness of mountains and water on every side. Okay. All right, I just lost my place. Okay. Upon the north shore, they yearly reap great crops of corn, which they always have a 12 months provision beforehand against an invasion from their powerful neighbors. Their government is under two kings. Okay, so they have they're not one monarch like the Saponi or the Nahasans people. They have two kings, one residing in arms, okay, the other in hunting and husbandry, okay. So this is the war chief, right, and the peace chief, basically. They hold all things except their wives in common. Okay, hopefully they don't have the same wives. And their customs in eating is that every man in his turn feasts all the rest, and that he makes the entertainment, is seated between the two kings, where having highly condemned his own clear or chair, they carve and distribute it amongst the guests. Okay. At my arrival here, I met 4 stranger Indians whose bodies were painted in various colors with figures of animals whose likeness I had never seen. And by some discourse and signs which passed between us, I gathered that they were the only survivors of 50 who set out together in company from some great island, as I conjectured, to the northwest. Okay, y'all hear that? They had animals painted on him. I can't even imagine what animals these would be. They had animals, figures of animals in various colors painted on their bodies. I'm just trying to think of who they could be. For I understood that they had crossed a great water in which most of their party perished by tempest. Okay, the waves crashed and stuff, and they had storms. Oh my goodness, I just saw a spider in my room. I'm sorry. It's like, what the heck is that moving? It's a spider. Okay. The rest dying in the marshes and mountains by famine and hard weather after a 2 months travel by land and water in quest of the island of Akenazty. So where do you think they could be from? It's very interesting. He said make a playlist. Yeah, I have a couple of playlists already made, Kurt. But I'll try to make I'll add this to the history playlist. Genealogy, yeah, history and genealogy playlist, because I said that if you missed it, I did a lot of surnames for these people. Okay. The most reasonable conjecture that I can frame out of this relation is that these Indians might come from the island of New Abalone or California, from whence we may imagine some great arm of the Indian Ocean or bay stretches into the continent towards the Apalatean Mountains, into the nature of a midland sea, in which many of these Indians might have perished. So they kind of, I think they're calling, it seems like they're calling the Pacific Ocean the Indian Ocean in this context, okay? And you think that these people came from California to North Carolina. It's very interesting. Did they cross the Mississippi? Not on this one. John doesn't cross the Mississippi, but yeah, these people, they had to cross the Mississippi to get there. It could be just, a tribe from the other side of the Mississippi, not necessarily as far as California, and it definitely could be California. I kind of get in my head that the whole vibe, like, y'all remember those paintings with the people painting half black and half white, and they have all these designs on them, and it kind of looks like some of the tribes in the South Pacific too have that style as well. Okay, some of those people have interacted, the Californians and the South Pacific people. Or it could just be somebody from the other side of the Mississippi River. I don't believe that those plains tribes, like those natives and stuff, I've never really seen them do body paint and stuff like we do on the East Coast or the West Coast. So I don't think you're talking about them folks. To confirm my opinion in this point, I have heard several Indians testify that the nation of the Rickahonkins, now these are the Westos, okay? The Rickahonkins, who dwell not far to the westward of the Appalachian Mountains, are seated upon a land, as they term it, of great waves, by which I suppose they mean the seashore. Thank you, ladies, babe. Appreciate the super chat. So they're trying to say that the Rickahonkins or the Westos are seated upon the land of great waves. But see, these people come from the Ohio Valley, though. From the research, these people come from the Ohio Valley. So I don't know. I don't know if they are the same people. The next day after my arrival at the Akenazty, a Rickahocken ambassador attended by 5 Indians whose faces were colored with, what is this? Auri pigmentum. Auri pigmentum is some type of paint in which is minerals these parts do abound. So it's a crushed mineral that they use as body paint, face paint, and stuff. Was received, and that night attended to a ball of their fashion. But in the height of their mirth and dancing, by smoke contrived for that purpose, the room was suddenly darkened, and for what cause I know not. The Rickahocken and his retinue barbarously murmured. This shook me with such an affrightment that the very next day, without taking my leave of them, I slunk away with my Indian companion. So he's basically at a ritual, and the people are dancing and singing and stuff. And then it's smoke. The room got dark. They're doing this inside an actual building, and the room got dark, and they started to basically do these war yells or the war screams. I don't want to do it in y'all ear because it's late, but y'all know, like, the ooh, the hootie hoo and all that stuff. Those are like the war cries that the people would do, right? So they made the room dark and it's all smoky and it's like quiet, and then they start screaming, doing this hootie hoo and all this stuff. And so he was like, okay, these fools are crazy. So he said the next day, he was like, we ain't staying around because we don't know what they about to do. We're going to get sacrificed or killed or whatever, imprisoned, enslaved. They don't know. So he said in the morning they left. Though the desire of informing myself further concerning some minerals, as the Auri pigmentum, etc., which they took special notice of, would have persuaded me to stay longer amongst them, had not the bloody example of their treachery to the Rickahockens frightened me away. The 14th of June, pursuing a southwest course, sometimes by a beaten path and sometimes over hills and rocks. I was forced to take up my quarters in the woods. They had to camp out. For though the Oanak Indians, whom I then sought, were not in a direct line about 30 odd miles distance from the Akenazty, yet the ways were such and obliged me to go far about that I reached not Akenak until the 16th. The country here, by the industry of these Indians, is very open and clear of woods. Their town is built round a field where in their sports they exercise with so much labor and violence and in so great numbers that I have seen the ground wet with their sweat that dropped from their bodies. So you're talking about like a football field. And yes, we had football here. Their chief recreation, I'll read another, I'll read a different document talking about football and stuff. Their chief recreation is slinging of stones. They are mean stature. So this one is talking about the chunky. So if y'all don't know about the chunky, I think Karen Mayo did something talking about the chunky sport. If you want to check that out, or I'll do one. I'm not sure. I haven't watched this video on that. But yeah, chunky is basically, it's like this big stone. It's usually like a big giant stone Cheerio, right? It's like a donut with a hole in it. It's, different tribes have it shaped differently, but they throw it around the field or they push it around with like a hockey, like a hockey or lacrosse and stuff like that. Okay, so it's a sport that uses multiple players. They are of mean stature and courage. So big buff guys, basically. Conventuous and thievish, right? Big buff thugs, industrious to earn a penny. Okay. And therefore hire themselves out to their neighbors who employ them as carriers or porters. They plant abundance of grain, reap 3 crops in a summer, and out of their granary supply all the adjacent parts. Okay. So they basically hustlers, right? They have farms and stuff, then they use their grain to trade with other towns who who aren't as industrious. These and the mountain Indians built not their houses of bark, but of wattling and plaster. Okay? Wattling, and plaster. Right? So they don't have the bark houses like the wigwams or the Jokahans and all these other things. They have wattling and plaster. So kind of like mud, I would say, that's how I would say it, with stuff on the outside. In summer, the heat of the weather makes them choose to lie abroad in the night under thin arbors of wild palm. Some houses they have of reed and bark. They build them generally round. To each house belongs a little hovel made like an oven, where they lay up their corn and mast and keep it dry. They parch their nuts and acorn over the fire to take away their rank oiliness, which afterwards pressed yield a milky liquid. And this is like almond milk, right? Acorn milk. Because the people here are the ones who invented those type of milks, right? The plant-based milks. And the acorns and amber-colored oil. Okay, acorn oil is very coveted by the people here. Used as a body oil, like a lotion. Also used in ceremony and protection rituals and things like that. Okay, so it's very important. Also, the men use it on hunts to attract deer and other type of game, right? And they still to this day, The hunters do use acorn oil. Okay. And these mingle together, they dip their cakes in great entertainments. And so to serve them up to their guests as extraordinary dainty. Okay, so they're saying the dish that they serve to guests is acorn oil or acorn milk and cornbread. Right? That's what we ate. That was the delicacy. Cornbread and milk, or cornbread and oil. Y'all know, like in those fancy restaurants, you'll go and they have bread, right, with the oil, with the herbs and stuff in it, and you dip the bread in and you eat it. That's basically what they're talking about, a little fancy meal. The government is democratic. Doesn't that sound familiar? And the sentences of their old men are received as laws, or rather oracles by them. Okay? So the old men make the laws. 14 miles southwestward of the Oanok dwelled the Shakari Indians upon a rich soil and yet bounding in amity, of which they shewed. I'm sorry, that sound is a candle burning. It's loud. Of which they showed me considerable qualities. Finding them agree with the Anahawks in customs and manners, I made no stay here, but passing through their town. So they like the cornbread, and they like the cornbread and milk too. I traveled till the 19th of June, and then after a 2-day troublesome journey through thickets and marsh grounds, I arrived at Warturi, about 40 miles distance and bearing southwest of Shakar. Okay, Shakar. This nation differs in government from all other Indians of these parts, for they are slaves rather than subjects to their king. Their present monarch is a grave man. So these people don't have a democrat. They don't have a democratic government like the Akenazty. All right, so with these people, Shakar. I know that this is the Wartari people. The Wartari. They're basically slaves to their king. Their present monarch is a grave man and courteous to strangers. Yet I could not, without horror, behold his barbarous superstition in hiring 3 youths and sending them forth to kill as many young women of their enemies as they could light on, to serve his son, then newly dead in the other world, as he vainly fancied. So, like they was talking about earlier, they had prisoners of war. So they had a bunch of young women who were prisoners of war, and the men would light them on fire. Okay, so they can serve the king's son who had just died in the afterlife. These youth during my stay returned with skins torn off the heads and faces of 3 young girls, which they presented to his majesty and were by him gratefully received. Okay, that's kind of gross. But you gotta think, hey, these are their enemies. Are they gonna treat their enemies kind? Like, no, because the enemies probably do the same thing to their women, right? Or to them. So it's not like they did this to their own people. And that's the thing. We didn't think of everybody here as our own people. We had different countries, different nations, different tribes, different clans, right? I departed from Watery the 21st of June, and keeping a west course for nearly 30 miles, I came to Sara. Here I found many more level and ease. Sara is not far distant from the mountains, which here lose their height and change their course and name, for they run due west and receive from the Spaniards the name Sula. From these mountains or hills, the Indians draw great quantities of cinnabar, which beaten to powder, they color their faces. Okay, cinnabar is like red color. This mineral is of a deep purple, than vermilion or vermilion, and is the same which is in so much esteem amongst physicians, being the first element of quicksilver. Okay, so it's a purple powder. I did likewise, to my no small admiration, find hard cakes of white salt amongst them. Okay, so we had salt, y'all. But whether they were made of seawater or taken out of salt pits, I know not. Okay, so hey, we had the seasonings. I keep telling y'all, we had salt here. Okay, we use salt in our food, right? But I'm amped to believe the latter because the sea is so remote from them. Many other rich commodities and minerals there are undoubtedly in these parts, which, if possessed by an egregious and industrious people, will be improved to vast advantages by trade. So he keeps dropping little hints like, we can come in here, take over their salt stuff, and ship that stuff over to Europe and make big money or whatever they want to get. He keeps dropping these little hints. But having tied myself up to things only that I have seen in my travels, I will deliver no conjectures. Okay, he ain't trying to guess and stuff. All right, I cannot read Latin, so I don't know what the heck he's saying. Right here, Linagua, Sili, Non, Es Otra, Narrowable, Quiquam, or something. I don't know what he's saying. These Indians are so indiscreetly fond of their children that they will not chastise them for any mischief or insolence. Okay, so they soften the kids. A little boy had shot an arrow through my body had I not recalled him to me with gifts. And all this anger was because I spurred my horse out of another arrow way which he had directed at him. So the little boy tried to shoot his horse, and then the boy got mad and tried to shoot John. Okay. This caused such a mutiny amongst the youth of the town that the seniors, taking my horse and self into protection, had much ado, and that by entreaties and prayers, not commands, to appease them. The people being soft on the kids, and because that incident happened, the other children in the town gathered up and act like they're gonna shoot him or beat him up, and the elders had to hide him and the horse so the kids won't get them. So they had no control over these children at all, basically. They let the kids run wild. From Sara, I kept a southwest course until the 25th of June. And then I reached Wasaki. This 3-day march was more troublesome to me than all travels besides, for the direction way which I took from Sara to Wasaki is over a continued marsh overgrown with reeds, from whose roots sprung knotty stumps as hard as sharp as flint. I was forced to lead my horse most of the way and wonder that he was not either plunged into the bog or lamented by those rung knots. This nation is subject to a neighbor king residing upon the bank of the great lake called Usury, environed of all sides of the mountain, the Wasaki marsh, and therefore I detain the reader no longer with the discourse of them, because I comprehend them in that of Usury. The 6th and 12th of June, the 26th of June, having crossed a fresh river which runs into the lake of Usury, I came to a town which was more populous than any I had seen before in my march. The king dwells some 3 miles from it, and therefore I had no opportunity of seeing him the 2 nights in which I stayed there. This prince, though his dominions are large and populous, is in continual fear of the Utasak Indians. Utastaks. The Utastak Indians, seated in the opposite side of the lake. A people so addicted to arms that even the women come into the field and shoot arrows over their husbands' shoulders, who shield them with leather targets. What? They that wild? You're saying even the women hold arms, right? The women be shooting. The men, it seems, should fight with silver hatchets. For one of the usuries told me they were of the same metal with the pommel of my sword. So basically iron hatchets, right? Silver hatchet iron. They are a cruel generation and prey upon people, whom they either steal or force away from the usuries and perigos to sacrifice to their idols. Okay, so these people stealing, they shooting, the women shooting too, they thugs, right? So people try to make it like the people here are all a kumbaya and sitting around reading fairy tales and you know being passive and stuff, and they out here shooting and stealing and stuff. So it's different type of people. You saw the other people in the villages, they were cool and they didn't do, all these people are different. This is just a small area compared to the vast whole United States territory, right? The usury women delight much in feather ornaments, of which they have great variety, but peacocks in most esteem because rare in those parts. Okay, so that's another thing. People didn't know that we had peacocks in this area, and I know my great grandmother, she raised a couple peacocks, so she had those on her farm. And peacocks are native and indigenous to America as well. Okay, I think they try to say peacocks are only from Africa, right? They tried to say that, but we had peacocks here. You said the women were about their life, Renzo. Yeah, the women about their life. They out there stealing and shooting. Like the husband shoot, they come over the husband's shoulders and shoot. That's crazy, right? Yeah. Okay. So they are reasonably handsome and have more of a civility in their carriage than I observed in other nations with whom I conversed, which is the reason that the men are more effeminate and lazy. What? What? Okay, so they're saying the women they look good and they thugs too, and the husbands, I don't know, house husbands. I don't know what you want to call this. But that can be just his perception. He only been there 2 days. He don't know what the men really doing. They could have just came from war or something. That's why they chilling and relaxing. So he don't really know what's going on to call the men lazy and effeminate. To be honest, like you don't know what's going on. These miserable wretches are strangely infatuated with illusions of the devil. What? It caused no small horror in me to see them with wring his neck all on one side, foam at the mouth, stand barefoot upon burning coals for nearly an hour, and then recover his senses, leap out of the fire without hurt or sign of any. This I was a witness of. What? Okay, they doing some stuff. They're doing some things in the woods here. He said he was projecting. Yeah, he was projecting. He could, but you saw how he was talking about the other people because they were tired and starving because they went home. He tried to act like they was weak. So he was a little judgmental on people. The water of Usury Lake seemed to my taste a little brackish, which I rather impute to some mineral waters which flow into it than to any saltiness it can take from the sea, which we may reasonably suppose is a great way from it. Many pleasant rivulets fall into it, and it is stored with great plenty of excellent fish. I judged it to be about 10 leagues broad from where not the other shore very high, and could not be discerned from usury. How far this lake tends westerly, or where it ends, I could neither learn or guess. So it's very big. Thank you, Bowman Jr. OCO. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had to take a little break. Yeah, but I was reading these things to see what I was gonna present to y'all, because some of the stuff is interesting. I didn't want to waste y'all time, but this one was very interesting. You see, it's a lot of information in here. Here I made a day's stay to inform myself further in these countries, and understood both from the usuries and some Sara Indians that came to trade with them the 2 days' journey and a half from hence the southwest. A powerful nation of bearded men were seated, which I suppose to be the Spaniards, because the Indians never had any, it being a universal custom amongst them to prevent their growth by plucking the young hairs out by the root. Okay, basically talking about how the Indians shave, right? So we know the Europeans at this time, they walk around looking like Rick Ross with the big beards and stuff, right? Looking like ZZ Top. They didn't really shave. They didn't shave their face. Okay, a lot of those shaving techniques and stuff come from us, right? Them seeing us, they said pluck the hairs out and all that. So the men here mostly had like mustaches, goatees, right? The goatee comes from us over here on the Eastern Woodland men. They had goatees, mustaches, or they had clean shaven faces, right? And the women would choose their wife, if they were married, or their mother, would choose what facial hair. And most of the time, the men would want to be married by the time they got a lot of facial hair. All right, most people got married in their teens, but some did get married in the 20s, depending on what was going on. But yeah, the women would choose their facial. And most of the women like the little goatees or, stuff like that. Women like today anyways. Westward lies a government inhospitable to strangers. And to the north, over the Sula Mountains, lay the Hawkins. I thought it not safe to venture myself amongst the Spaniards, lest taking me for a spy, they would either make me away or condemn me to a perpetual slavery in their minds. Therefore, not thinking fit to proceed further, the 8th and 20th of June, I faced about and looked homewards. So he ain't about to mess with them Spaniards. They crazy. They slave people and prison people and beat them up or kill them. All right, the Spanish was thugs then. Helito G major. Oh, you guys at a party? Got a lady friend in Virginia. Her cousin works at the library. Oh, cool. She works at the Library of Congress. Cool. To avoid Wasaki Marsh, I shaped my course northeast, and after 3 days' travel over hilly ways where I met with no path or road, I fell into a barren, sandy desert, where I suffered miserably for want of water, the heat of the summer having drunk all the springs dry, and left no sign of any but the gravely channels in which they run, so that if now and then I had not found a standing pool, which provident nature set around, with shady oaks to defend it from the uproar of the sun. My Indian companion, horse, and self had certainly perished with thirst. And this distress we traveled until the 12th of July, and then found the head of a river, which afterwards proved in Ruku. I don't know what that's supposed to be in Roko, in which we received not only the comfort of a necessary and seasonable refreshment. He said all this to say we finally found some water to drink. But likewise, the hopes of coming into the country again where we might find game for food at least, if not discover some new nation or people. Nor did our hopes fail us, for after we had crossed the river twice, we were led by we were led by it upon the 14th of July to the town of Caterias, right? Caterias, a place of great Indian trade and commerce. So Caterias was the big market town, right? Big commerce town. The chief's seat of the haughty emperor of the Tuscaroras, called Tuscarora, or vulgarly Cuscus. So the real name of the Tuscarora is the Tuscarora, okay, or Tuscarora. All right, cool, Major Juliet. Just email me. Okay, Diane, you said I've seen Asia and Mexican women pluck out the gray hair. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of women do that. They pluck out the gray. I plucked the gray hair out before. Sometimes it's just because the hair it does its own thing. Like the gray hair is a little more resistant. I say, okay, so the Tuscarora is the Tuscarora. His grim majesty upon my first appearance demanded my gun and shot, which I willingly parted with to ransom myself out of his clutches, for he was the most proud and pervious barbarian that I met with in all my marches. The people here at this time seemed prepared for some extraordinary solemnity. All right. So solemnity is like dignity. For the men and women of better sort had decked themselves very fine with pieces of bright copper. Why did I say silver? They had pieces of copper. He's talking about jewelry in their hair and ears and about their arms and neck, which upon festival occasions they use as an extraordinary bravery, by which it should seem this country as not without rich mines of copper. So basically, he said he got to the town, right, Caterias, during a holiday, right? So we had, usually we had a holiday every month. We had 13 months here. Okay, the 13 moons, and they would have a holiday around that full moon time, or a ceremony festival. Okay. But I do not stay to inform myself further in it, being jealous of some sudden mischief towards me from the Cascurs, his nature being bloody and provoked by a slight occasion. So something happened, and it made the king do some little mischief towards him. Okay, mess with him basically. Therefore, leaving Caterias, I traveled through the woods until the 16th, upon which I came to Kawitzioken. Okay. Kawitzioken, an Indian town upon a branch of Roanoke River, which here I passed over, continuing my journey to Menchirowinks, and in the 17th departed from thence. From there, I left there. I lay all night in the woods, and the next morning betimes going by Nottoway, I reached that evening Appomattox in Virginia, where I was not a little overjoyed to see Christian faces again. All right, that's the end of the second expedition. Peace, cousin Liz. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know it's late. You got to go to bed. It's like 1:30 in the East Coast. Okay. On the third and the last expedition from the falls of Rappahannock River in Virginia, due west to the top of the Appalatean Mountains. Okay, we're about to get into this one. I gotta get some water. This one's a little shorter than the other ones. Okay. So we're basically reading the whole book tonight. On the 20th of August, 1670, Colonel Collette of Virginia and myself, with nine English horses and 5 Indians on foot, departed from the house of one Robert Telfair, and that night reached the falls of Rappahannock River in Indian Mantepeque. The next day we passed it over where it divides into 2 branches, north and south, keeping the branch north of us. The 23rd, we found it so shallow that it only wet our horses' hoofs. Okay, so it's not that much water that it only covered a horse. You all know the horse hoofs is like a couple of inches, right? The 24th, we traveled through the savannah or savanny amongst vast herds of red and fallow deer, which stood grazing at us. And a little after we came to the promontories of spurs of the Appalachian Mountains. These savannae are low grounds at the foot of the Apalateans, which all the winter, spring, and part of summer lie under snow or water. When the snow is dissolved, which falls down from the mountains commonly about the beginning of June, and then their verdure is wonderful, pleasant to the eye, especially of such as having traveled through the shade of the vast forest, come out of a melancholy darkness of a sudden into a clear and open sky. To heighten the beauty of these parts, the first spring of most of those great rivers which run into the Atlantic Ocean or Chesapeake Bay do here break out and in various branches interlace the flowery meads whose luxurious herbage invites numerous herds of red deer for the unusual largeness and properly termed elk by ignorant people. Okay, so red deer are elks, right? To feed. The right elk, though very common in New Scotland, Canada, okay, and those northern parts, is never seen on the side of the continent, for that which the Virginians call elks does not at all differ from the red deer of Europe. Okay, so these are elks. He just keeps talking about some red deer. They're elks. But in this dimensions, which are far greater, but yet the elk and bigness does as far exceed them. Their heads or horns are not very different, but the neck of the elk is so short that it hardly separates the head from the shoulders, which is the reason that they cannot feed upon level ground, but by falling on their knees, though their heads be a yard long. So these things are huge. Therefore, they commonly either arose upon trees or standing up to the belly in ponds or rivers, feeding upon the banks. Their shingles or tails are hardly 3 inches long. I have been told by a New England gentleman that the lips and nostrils of this creature is the most delicious meat he ever tasted. Ew. As the red deer here treat of, I cannot difference the taste of their flesh from those in Europe. It's kind of gross. The 26th of August, we came to the mountains. Where finding no horse way up, we aligned and left our horses with 2 or 3 Indians below while we went up afoot. The ascent was so steep, the cold so intense, and we so tired that having with much ado gained the top of one of the highest, we drank the king's health in brandy, so they got drunk, and gave the mountain his name, and agreed to return back again, having no encouragement from that prospect to proceed a further discovery, since from hence So from here, we saw another mountain bearing north and by west to us of progenious height. For according to an observation of the distance taken by Colonel Collette, it could not be less than 50 leagues from the place we stood. Here I was stung in my sleep by a mountain spider, and had not an Indian sucked that poison out, I had died. For receiving the hurt at the tip of one of my fingers, the venom shot up immediately into my shoulder, and so inflamed my side that it was not possible to express my torment. The means used by my physician was a small dose of snake root powder, which I took in a little water, and then making a kind of plaster of the same, applied it to the part affected. And when he had done so, he swallowed some by the way of antidote himself, and in sucked my fingers in so violently that I felt the venom retire back from the side of my shoulder, and from whence drawn my arm, having thus sucked half a score's time, and spit as often, I was eased of all my pain and perfectly recovered. Okay, so basically the Indian gave him some snake root powder, right? And then he made a plaster out of the snake root, basically a bandage, right? And then applied it to the affected part, like his shoulder, like he said his shoulder was hurting. And then he sucked out, he ate some of the snake root, and then he sucked the stuff out of the man's fingers. Kind of nasty, right? So yeah, he sucked the fingers so hard, right, that he stopped feeling the pain in his shoulder that the venom had gone into. So that's kind of interesting. All right. I thought I had been bit by a rattlesnake, for I saw not what hurt me, but the Indian found by the wound and the effects of it that it was given by a spider, one of which he saw me the next day. He showed me the next day. It was not unlike our great blue spider, only it is somewhat longer, and I suppose the nature of his poison to be much like the tarantula. What? Okay, so we had little tarantula-like things running around. Oh my goodness. Now I'm thinking about the spider in my room. I do not want to get bit. I'm not even scared of spiders, so that's I didn't even know they bite like that. I being thus beyond my hopes and expectations restored to myself, we unanimously agreed to return back, seeing no possibility of passing through the mountains and finding our Indians with our horses in the place where we left them. We rode homewards without making any further discovery. So he's like, he got bit. He got messed up. I'm like, I'm going home. He said, you got elks out in Ohio? Yeah, the red tail elks. I think that's what he's talking about. I keep calling them red deers. Conjectures of the land beyond the Apalatean mountains. They are certainly in great error who imagine that the continent of North America is but 8 or 10 days' journey from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean, which all reasonable men must acknowledge if they consider that Sir Francis Drake kept a west-northwest course from the Cape Mendocino in California. Nevertheless, by what I gathered from the stranger Indians at the Akenazty of their voyage by sea, okay, right there, Indians getting on the sea, voyage by sea to the very mountains from a far distant northwest country. I am brought over to their opinion who think that the Indian Ocean does stretch an arm or bay from California into the continent as far as the Appalachian Mountains, answerable to the Gulf of Florida and Mexico on this side. Yet I am far from believing which some that such great and navigable rivers are to be found on the other side of Appalachian, falling into the Indian Ocean, as those which run from them to the eastward. My first reason is derived from the knowledge and experience we already have of South America, whose Andes send the greatest rivers in the world, as the Amazon and the Rio de la Plata, into the Atlantic, but none at all into the Pacific Sea. Another argument is that all of our waterfowl, which delight in lakes and rivers, as swans, geese, ducks, etc., come over the mountain from the Lake of Canada when it is frozen over every winter to our fresh rivers, which they would never do could they find any on the other side of the Apalateans. Okay, so he's basically saying, he's saying that the continent is way bigger than they think. Okay, they seem to believe that there is an Indian Ocean in that whole Midwest area, which we know that doesn't exist. And that could be like one of you guys suggested, I can't remember who said it, could be that they're talking about the Mississippi River, right? Instructions to such as shall march upon discoveries into the North American continent. Okay, we're almost done with this, y'all. We got a couple pages left. I know it's late. People want to go to bed. They don't want to miss nothing. So we're going to get through it. 2 breaches there are in the Appalachian Mountains, opening a passage into the western parts of the continent. One, as I am informed by the Indians, at a place called Zenadoa to the northward, and the other at Sara, where I have been myself. But the way thither being through a vast forest, where you seldom fall into any road or path, you must shape your course by a compass. Though some, for want of one, have taken their direction from the north side of the trees, which is distinguished from the rest of the qualities of thick moss growing there. You will not meet any, you may not meet with any hindrance on horseback in your passage to the mountains, but where your course is interrupted by branches of the great river, which places are not fordable. And therefore, if you be unprovided of means or strength to make a bridge, my falling trees, you may be forced to go a great way about. In this respect, company is necessary, but in others so inconvenient. But I would not advise above going half a dozen or 10 at the most to travel together, and of these the major part of Indians. For the nations in your way are more prone to jealousy and mischief towards Christians in a considerable body, and as courteous and hearty to a few, from whom they apprehend no danger. When you pass through an even level country, where you can take no particular remarks from hill or waters to guide yourself by when you come back, you must forget to notch the trees as you go along your small hatchet, with your small hatchet, that in your return you may know when you fall into the same way in which you went. So you need to mark your way traveling there so you know how to get back home. By this means you will be certain of a place you are in and may govern your course homeward accordingly. Instead of bread, I use the meal of parched maize, Indian wheat, which when I eat, I season with a little salt. So you get cornbread and salt. This is both more portable and strengthening than biscuits and will suffer no moldiness by any weather. For other provisions, you may securely trust to your gun, the woods being full of fallow and savanna of red deer. Those are the elks. Besides great variety of excellent fowl, as wild turkeys, pigeons, partridges in the pear tree, pheasants, etc. But you must not forget to dry or barbecue some of these before you come to the mountains, for upon then you will meet with no game except a few bears. So he's saying, go ahead and make you a barbecue, some barbecue turkey and stuff. Have that packed because you ain't gonna find wood, no food in the woods, basically, right? You say you live in Tappahannock. Yeah, Tappahannock is the same as Rappahannock. I mean, it's the same word, Tappahannock and Rappahannock. Yep, we've been here. Yes, we did. Okay. Such as cannot lie on the ground must be provided with light hammocks, which hung in the trees are more cool and pleasant than any bed whatsoever. So y'all got to know hammock is one of our words. Hammock is from us. Okay. They didn't have hammocks over in Europe, right? And now they're using these hammocks and going camping, all the stuff, doing all the old Indian ways that we don't do because we stay stuck in the city, all right, or the suburbs, wherever we live. The order and discipline to be observed in this expedition is that an Indian scout or two marches far before the rest of the company, as they can incite both for the finding out provision and discovery of ambushes, if any should be laid by enemies. Let your other Indians keep on the right and left hand, armed not only with guns, but bills and hatchets, to build small arbors or cottages of burrows and bark of trees to shelter and defend you from the injuries of the weather. So basically, talking about they building little cabins or tents, right? At night, it's necessary to make great fires around the place where you take up your lodging, as well to scare wild beasts away as to purify the air. Okay. So people put like sage and different things in the fire to keep, the bugs away and the air pure. Neither must you fail to go the round at the close of the evening. Excuse me. For then and betimes in the morning, the Indians put all their designs in execution. In the night, they never attempt anything. Okay, so the Indians be chilling at night, basically. They're not going to ambush or attack anybody then, right? The men only work on during business hours. they only go to war on business hours, right? When in the remote parts you draw near to an Indian town, you must, by your scouts, inform yourself whether they hold any correspondence with the Susquehanna. For to such you must give notice of your approach by gun, which amongst the Indians is to be avoided because being ignorant of their use, it would affright and dispose them to some treacherous practice against you. Okay. I mean, I think it's because the Susquehannocks, they got a bad reputation. They have to let people know beforehand that you hanging out with some Susquehannocks. Okay, Susquehannocks were wild, right? They were some of the first ones to get guns as well from the Europeans. Okay, so they dealt with a lot of slave trading too, and a lot of warring and things like that. So Susquehannocks were. They're an Iroquois speaking tribe, and they were named by the Algonquin people. Okay, that's what the Algonquins call them, Susquehanna. All right. Being arrived at a town, enter no house until you are invited, and then seem not afraid to be led and pinoined like a prisoner, for that is their ceremony they use to friends and enemies without distinction. Okay. You must accept an invitation from the seniors or the elders before that of young men, and refuse nothing that is offered or for you, for they are very jealous and sensible of the least slighting or neglect from strangers, and mindful of revenge. Okay, so they don't like you turning down none of their offerings, and they get jealous, and they get, offended, right? If you don't accept their hospitality. Touching trade with Indians. So he basically laying out the blueprint for them, how they should set up shop and interact with the Indians, and what their little plan and agenda that they had at the time. If you barely design a home trade with neighbor Indians for skins of deer, beaver, otter, wildcat, fox, raccoon, etc., your best truck is a sort of coarse trading cloth. So that's like a book bag. The truck is a book bag to carry things in, of which a yard and a half makes a match coat or mantle fit for their wears. Okay, that's a coat or a shawl. Also, axes, hoes, knives, scissors, and all sorts of edge tools. Guns, powder, shot, etc. He's talking about bullets. When he says shot, he's talking about bullets. Are commodities they will greedily barter for. But to supply the Indians with arms and ammunition is prohibited in all English governments. So they're like, if you're going to do these trades, y'all got to do it on the low because it's illegal. Illegal arms trade. And dealing with the Indians, you must be positive and at a word. For if they persuade you to fall anything in your price, but talking about negotiation, they will spend time in haggling for further abatements, okay? And seldom conclude any bargain. So they'll haggle people. Sometimes you may, with brandy or strong liquor, dispose them to in the humor of giving you 10 times the value of your commodity. So they're saying you get them liquored up, and you might be able to get 10 times the price. And at other times, they are so hidebound that they will not offer half the market price, especially if they be aware that you have a design to circumvent them with drink, or that they think that you have a desire to their goods, which you must seem to slight and disparage. Okay. So they like, if they, they figure out you trying to get them drunk, that's when they're going to offer you half the price, right? You're going to get less money. Ooh, we're almost at the end. To the remoter Indians, you must carry other kinds of truck, as small looking glasses. Okay, those are magnifying glasses. Pictures, beads, and bracelets of glass, knives, scissors, and all manner of gauntly toys and knacks for children, which are light and portable, for they are apt to admire such trinkets and will purchase them at any rate, either with their current coin of small shells, which they call Roanoke or peck. All right, that's the wampum. Okay, we call it Roanoke. Or perhaps with the pearl, vermilion, pieces of crystal. Okay, y'all know we still like our crystals. And towards usury, with some odd pieces of plate and bullion, which they sometimes receive in truck from the Osa stack. Could I have foreseen when I set out the adventures to be made by trade with these remote Indians, I had gone better provided. Though perhaps I might have run a great hazard of my life had I purchased considerable among them by carrying wealth unguarded through so many different nations of barbarous people. Therefore, it is vain for any man to propose to himself or undertake a trade at that distance, unless he goes with strength to defend as well as an adventure to purchase such commodities. For in such a design might ought to join and to go in company. So basically he said he would have known that trade was so good with those Indians, he would have had prepared himself. Like he's telling them to prepare themselves for goods and stuff to trade, but he was not prepared. Some pieces of silver outright I purchased myself of the usuries for no other end than to justify this account I give of my second expedition, which had not determined a usury, were I accompanied with half a score of absolute use. That would have stuck to me in further discovery towards the Spanish mines. Finis, basically the end. All right. Yeah, so so that's the end, y'all. I won't keep y'all too much longer. We're at almost 2:00 a.m. on the East Coast. Y'all let me know y'all got any more questions and stuff. I'm gonna have to let me see. Let me remove this. You guys got any questions about anything? Or y'all want me to cover any other subjects? Just let me know. Maybe we can talk about the Tappahannocs next time and football. Football and Tappahannocs. If you want me to talk about it, just let me know. Thank you guys for staying up with me. I'm not going to keep y'all that much longer. I'm about to get off here myself. I don't know if y'all still with me. I got at least 62 people on here now at this time an hour. Y'all very quiet. You said, what would you advise the best method of beginning your research? Do you mean like history research or genealogy research? Yes, you can email me at the tashashi@gmail.com. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. Well, y'all see it on here. I need to put it on my thing. I'm putting in the chat for y'all. Gmail.com. Oh, no problem, Nia. You said we with you, taking it all in. Good. I hope y'all took some notes because this is very interesting. This is very interesting. Let me see if I can put that link in the chat, though. Where is it? I have so many tabs up here, y'all. You gotta excuse me. Can y'all still see? Let me stop sharing. I took it off the screen, but I was still sharing it. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. This is the link to the book that I just read for you guys. Discovery of, what's it called again? Y'all know it's late. Yeah, please rewatch it, Diane. I think you missed a little bit at the beginning because you just came in probably 20 minutes in, looks like. The Discoveries of John Lederer. That's the name of the book. It's about him interacting with mainly Siouan-speaking tribes. Okay, mainly Siouan-speaking tribes in that Piedmont area in Virginia and North Carolina. Yeah, at the beginning, Diane, I listed a lot of the surnames associated with the people that he's talking about on here. Okay, thank you, Frederick. Yeah, please rewatch it. Please share it out so other people can see it too because, oh, thank you, Ronnie, for the super chat. Appreciate you, Ronnie Wagner. Yeah, please share it out because this video might connect a lot of people to their ancestry, dealing with the Sara, dealing with the Tuscarora people, all these people. What was the other tribes over there? Monacan. We found out the origin of the Monacan names from Monarch, right? Monarch, the man Monarch, who who helped those people travel from a foreign land, quote unquote, foreign country. So yeah, that's interesting. You said you got $100 red leather treaty book. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they're hiding some of these treaties now, so that's good to have them in the book, right? I'm saying I'm having a hard time finding Rainies in the Georgia area. Oh, I appreciate you, Copper Indio. Thank you. Are you the one I met at the Cheraw? I think I met you and your lady at the Cheraw. That was a pleasant conversation. I really enjoyed talking to y'all. Yes, I own that book, G. Bowman Jr., When Rocks Cry Out by Horace Butler. Yep. Yeah, he has some good research. I mean, I might not agree with every point, but yeah, he's done extensive research, so it's a good book to have and check out, especially dealing with his description. I mean, talking about the description of the Mexicans and the cities that we had there with barbershops and we had stores, grocery stores, barbershops, and all these different things. So they want us to think that we're primitive. We see here we have major towns just for trade and stuff here. People walking around with silver, and not silver, I keep saying silver, copper jewelry and all these things. And copper is very important to us over here. Copper is a very conducive of energy, right? Copper helps regulate the blood. It's very good for your health. So if you don't have copper jewelry, it's good to get you some. Just be wary of the bootlegs. Okay. I had just ordered a couple, was it 1 week ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago. I ordered some copper jewelry off of Amazon and that was not good. I'm about to leave a bad review, y'all. I think it was bootleg. But yeah, it didn't do anything compared to when I had used, well, I actually have another copper bracelet I have on now. But yeah, I don't get the same feeling. I knew it had to be bootleg. And then it started turning green. Like my wrist started turning green. I was like, wait a minute. I thought this was only for bootleg gold. But I guess bootleg copper turns green too, right? Oh, that was you? Okay. Peace, Copper Indio. Yeah. Hopefully I see you guys again. I think they're going to be having another powwow. Cheraw is supposed to be having one at the end of September. If I find that information, I'll post it on the community page. Appreciate you, Nina Pilar. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate y'all. I know it's been a minute, so I'm going to try to come back, right, with some more lives and some more information for y'all. And keep posting on the community page, too. So I know y'all enjoy me posting articles and pictures and information as well. Okay, I hope you guys got a lot out of this. It's 2 a.m. over here on the East Coast, so I'm about to close it out for y'all. And please feel free to email me. I put my email up in the chat. And for those watching the replay, the email is thetashashi@gmail.com. Okay. You said we were far from primitive, G. Bowman Jr. Yeah, basically they hijacked it. You see it here. Once you start reading the actual documents, and you kind of see their bias in their views too, but you can see just from the descriptions of the people that they were complex and we were very different, versatile, right? Everybody didn't have the same societies, but we had organized governments, right? Or organized monarchies, and it seemed like the people traveled and moved around, and they've heard stories of the other people, right? They had names for the other people that were not them, okay? We were very complex societies. It's just at the time when the Europeans came here, we were dealing with a great war going on, okay? A lot of battles, small battles and wars, and the people were divided, right? And it's not like we were ever all kumbaya, at one point anyways. So we had a lot of stuff going on, and hundreds of tribes that they actually documented, right? Today they document there's 500, allegedly 500 active tribes, but then it was way more than that, right? They're talking about monarchies, so like one king rules compared to having a chief and a war chief and having a tribal council and stuff. So they're saying that some of the people had monarchies. So they just had one ruling king or two kings that ruled without that tribal council or different branches of the government and stuff like that. You know. Oh, no problem. No problem, Diane. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, y'all were so quiet. Like y'all used to be through the whole thing, but yeah, y'all just letting me read because it was a lot because I was trying to decipher the old English at the same time and then decipher what he was trying to explain. So, it's some people are turned off from reading those types of documents because they don't understand what they're saying. So that's why I was trying to break it down for folks, especially with, it's late too. And then in the morning, like some of the younger kids or children going to be watching. So, well, thank you all and appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, hit that gray bell button so you can get the notifications and join the notification tribe, right? Thank you guys. Yeah, please share and support because y'all know I'm shadow banned. I'm just gonna say that again. At the bottom of the screen, I think you should be able to see on my Instagram and my Twitter. I don't have many followers on Twitter. I started I have, my brain is freezing on me. A TikTok. I'm about to say TikTok. I have a new TikTok as well. I have a couple thousand. I think I have 1,000 followers on there. I've only been on there for probably a month or so. Really. So please, I'm gonna have to add my TikTok to here. Join my TikTok. I'm gonna be doing more stuff on my TikTok. Different stuff that I'm doing on my other social media. So stay tuned for that. Okay. And I appreciate you all in the chat. Lexi, you're always good. I think I made you a mod, Lexi, because you're always on here. And I need someone for my night crew on the West Coast. Appreciate you, North and Bell. Thank you all. Crabs Apple, appreciate you. Thank you all. And in the Powhatan language, to say goodbye, we say Ana. So Ana.